Just a quick Lazy Wolf Guns extra video, kind of an in-between video. I'm not going to delve deep right now into a couple of these things that I discussed in the previous video, and then I'm going to dig deeper into closer to a 30-minute video that is more of a long format discussion style. But both of these are representations of what's currently being sold in that format versus the VP9 hasn't had any real changes to its design since its release in June of 2014, other than just other variants and submodels like the SK and VP9L and match. But essentially everything is exactly the same from the first generation. And there's a reason that we haven't seen a voluntary upgrade for the VP series. It's because they spent a lot of time testing these things before they went to market, and they are not using their customers as unwitting beta testers. They are spending many years in the T&E process in order to make sure that the product they deliver to the market is very well vetted with very high quality materials. And that's the last thing I want to say about that. Slide is in full battery, and then exactly the point at which you see the barrel disengaging and the striker still having an ability to ignite a live primer, and that distance. So this is kind of a teaser of the beginning of the video that I want to make in a longer format. That's going to be probably like a close to 30-minute video in which I'm going to have other pistols involved in this, but the primary focus is not going to be talking up the high quality, in my opinion, about the HK pistols versus other ones on the market, but is more focusing on what we're seeing as far as issues with 320 and what may possibly be contributing. As you can see on these slides, I have, if you've been following this, you've seen Bruce Gray do some in my opinion very good and very valid scientific testing, essentially demonstrating the dwell time of the barrels of the P320 using tape and hash marks on the slide, which I think is a good indicator visually for videos to show you what's happening and when. Really quick here, I'm going to show you some interesting things. At the 0 point here, you can see this first hash mark is slides in full battery. It's completely closed and locked up. And if we take our Mitutoyo, kind of a rough measurement of those 2 points, what we wind up with is roughly in the realm of about 153 thousandths of an inch. It's unlock. Is the striker still capable of hitting a live primer? And then you have that same measurement in the VP9, which is significantly shorter. We're talking, if we measure this out in the VP9, we're talking somewhere around the realm of about 80 to 81 thousandths of an inch. You can see when the slide comes back into full battery, those two lines at the 0 mark up, indicating that this is in full battery. And as you can see, once we get back to that mark, the barrel has already almost completely moved out of battery. It's already dropping out of lockup when it reaches that mark. Now, if you can see that very well. Hopefully this is showing up really well in video. Now, that is an important mark right here, not because of where this is unlocking and dropping, but because when you get back to that point, let's engage it, we're engaged, we come back, let's go past that point, say, trigger's dead, right? But once we get up back into that area where those two marks align, suddenly we're able to get a discharge. Now, does that mean that the striker itself is aligned with the primer in a way that you could get an out of battery discharge? And I'm going to take an analog, because I want to be able to demonstrate this visually. And I'm going to make sure that our P320 is, the striker's engaged with the sear. And then I'm going to pull this back, just like we just did. And I'm going to go past the point of it. And, you know, this is way far out of battery. However, once we bring this back to this mark, we are out of battery here. We're out of battery significantly, almost completely here in its lockup. And we also, as I demonstrated just a minute ago, I'm going to line those back up. Just a minute ago, I demonstrated this. We are able to get a discharge. And in my opinion, that right there, and I'm going to do that again because I don't know if I relaxed my grip or whatever, but I've done this enough now to know I am not wrong. You know, that essentially we are at a point, at a very fine point under which the barrel is unlocked and we're starting to experience a gap between the breech face and the barrel, in which the striker is still able to engage a primer potentially to create a discharge. So we're going to make sure that's engaged. We're going to very carefully try to maintain alignment of those two lines. And at this point, obviously, as you can tell, we are definitely out of battery at this point. If I pull the trigger, what's going to happen? Okay, we got a release of the striker, but I don't think I think I had that pointed downward. So we're going to do that one more time. We're going to rack the slide. We're going to bring that back to the line. I'm going to tip back so that that analog primer is resting up against the breech face, and I'm going to pull the trigger, and bada bing, bada boom. What do you have? You have what in all definition is an out of battery discharge. Now, at that point, we have questions. We have questions like, you know, is there a proper case support? You know, Bruce demonstrated taking a barrel and really essentially taking away all of the support of the case, excuse me, by reaming out the chamber in such a way as to almost completely not support the case itself in a gun that he had also modified to shave off the hood of the barrel to where it was essentially a direct blowback gun, which, you know, in all fairness, I think is a very fair and good scientific test. However, you're still talking about, it doesn't matter if the barrel's locked up at that point or not, you're still fully forward in battery. There's the things that are changing once you're out of battery in a couple different ways. So if you're able to find that point, you know, take your 320, you know, I've heard it said by Bruce, you know, please don't try this at home. There's definitely like hard modifications that he's making to his guns that you don't want to try at home. But there are a few things that you can do if you're safe, like making sure that you're clear, you know, double, triple check yourself physically and visually, make sure that that gun is clear and always keep it pointed in a safe direction. And then put some tape on. Mark where the barrel is at a 0 point where it's completely locked up in battery, and then essentially just grab your slide and work the trigger until you get to a point where suddenly you can feel that that trigger is no longer engaging with the striker itself, which means that it can't release it. And then back off from that a little bit, you know, and you can see the mark. We're backed off a little bit. We come back closer to that mark suddenly, and I'm even now out ahead of it, and I can feel the resistance of the striker, but it's just barely hooking up with it. And then we get a little closer to that line, and suddenly you have, boom. That right there, and you just saw me demonstrate it with an analog tool essentially inserted in there that would be representative of a primer that would demonstrate an out of battery discharge. So, out of battery discharge, dwell time, these are interesting topics, and I feel like these things are relative to videos that Bruce Grace made. And I also want to demonstrate this really fast for all y'all with the VP series and the amount of time and distance in which you start to see that barrel dropping out of battery essentially well, actually, in this case, you don't start to see the barrel dropping out of the dwell time until about there. So, relatively speaking, that's pretty close to, you know, the P320. However, what you do experience is a completely dead trigger back here. Like, this thing is doing nothing. You get closer to that line, it's still doing nothing. Get closer to that line, still doing nothing. Closer to that line, and suddenly you start getting into a realm where it's almost completely back into battery, and we're definitely locked up here with the barrel against the breech face. And then you get to that line, and then you get the ability to detonate. Now, at that point, the gun is essentially basically locked up. And if you go just past that, you have a dead trigger. This is a visual thing that we can show right here. And this is just one part of it. I mean, there's a multiple different things I want to talk about with this. I really want to dig into the weeds with this and get into a whole bunch of topics that are really interesting and comparative. One of the things that I want to demonstrate real quick here before I end the video, or the difference between the 320 and the VP series. And the VP, you know, I'm using throw this thing up because I got a little bit of heat from a few folks that, you know, claimed that I was just, you know, doing an ad for HK or essentially protecting some investment that I have. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have, you know, I do work on HKs and SIGs. And I do, you know, have a business that focuses on HK. And you know, people sending their HKs into me is an important part of my business being able to function, obviously, right? But at the same time, I could walk away from Lazy Wolf guns tomorrow and I'd be okay. I'm not concerned about the idea that I have to support something because it's protecting a financial interest of mine. I'm not that kind of a person. I very much am more concerned with maintaining my reputation in the industry that is based on good, solid ethics, morals, and a solid concern for the consumer base that is purchasing these guns, and, you know, really, I think deserves a source of information, knowledge, that essentially can help them make informative decisions and come to their own conclusions through their own research. So having said all that, expect another video about this. I apologize to those other people that are frustrated because they're really looking forward to the LEM video, and I swear to goodness, I am not going to forget or skip over, but I just felt like I needed to make this interim video that touches on the P320 and the VP series, because this is a really good dramatic example of what I'm talking about, and I feel like is part of what may be going on with the 320, but there is a much deeper dive into this stuff that's going to happen in a video, and you know what? It's happening. So like and subscribe, leave me a comment, and let me know what you think in the comment section. Really appreciate the view. Thanks, guys. Take care.